Hello everyone, welcome back to today's story. In this video, we follow Tuna, a mother driven to the edge of madness after her son Henry goes missing. With Alex by her side and the police racing against time, the truth points to her ex-mother-in-law, Mrs. Dieu. What begins as a desperate search ends in a dramatic confrontation, where Tuna's fury explodes and justice finally takes its course. Stay with us until the end to see how Tuna faces her darkest fears and reclaims her strength as a mother. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button to help us reach 1,000 subscribers. Your support means the world to us. Darkness hung over the farm like a suffocating blanket. The trees groaned in the wind, whispering a tune that only deepened the emptiness inside Tuna's chest. Alex led her into the house, his hand firm yet gentle on her arm. Her eyes were glassy, her face blotched with tears, her lips trembling as if every breath carried shards of broken glass. "Where's Henry?" she gasped, her voice cracking under the weight of despair. Each word sounded more like a cry than a question. Alex placed a water bottle in front of her, trying to sound steady, though his own heart thudded in fear. "Drink, Tuna. Calm yourself first." But she pushed it away, her gaze fixed on some invisible point beyond the walls, out there in the night, where she imagined Henry's little voice crying for her. The silence thickened, pressing down on the wooden walls until even the air felt heavy with sorrow. Alex crouched down in front of her, clutching her hands. His voice trembled, though he tried to mask it. "Tomorrow morning, the police and I will find Henry, I swear to you." But Tuna wasn't listening. Her lips quivered as she whispered, louder each time. "Did she take my child? Did she?" Her ex-mother-in-law's shadow filled her mind like wildfire devouring a dry field. Alex tightened his grip on her fingers, trying to keep her from unraveling. His jaw clenched, his breath shaky. "You need to rest," he murmured, though both of them knew rest would not come tonight. Her sobs erupted, her body folding as she buried her face in her hands. "Henry, where are you?" The wail tore through the night, raw and hollow, echoing in Alex's chest until he felt his own knees weaken. He froze, helpless, staring at the woman he loved slipping deeper into grief's abyss. Outside, the moon peeked through the drifting clouds, spilling faint light onto the path that wound toward the village. Somewhere out there, Henry was waiting. Alex clenched his fists, the silent night pressing down, daring them to endure until dawn. When morning finally came, its light was weak, barely piercing the fog wrapped around the farm. Tuna stirred from a restless slumber, her eyes swollen, her throat hoarse. She turned, her first words trembling. "Where's Henry, Alex?" Alex knelt beside her, holding a bowl of porridge that steamed in the cool morning air. His tone was calm but urgent. "I just spoke to the police. They're searching as we speak. You need to eat. You'll need your strength." Tuna stared at the bowl as if it were a cruel reminder that life dared to go on while her son was gone. Tears slid down her cheeks. Her voice broke into a whisper. "I can feel him crying. I know it." Alex reached for her hand, forcing his voice to stay level. "Tuna, listen to me. We will find him. I promise." He lifted a spoonful to her lips, each motion filled with silent prayer. She let a few bites pass, But then her grief boiled over. She shoved the bowl aside, her voice cracking into a shout. "I don't want this. I want my son." Alex flinched at her outburst, his chest aching at her pain mirrored in his own eyes. But he didn't waver. With quiet care, he wiped her tears, tied back her hair, preparing her like a soldier before battle. The sun climbed higher, but its warmth failed to touch the cold stone lodged in Tuna's heart. Alex stepped outside, his gaze tracing the fog-laden fields, his thoughts tethered to Henry. Today, everything would be decided. The morning birds sang faintly, their fragile songs carrying like whispers of hope. The farm stirred awake, the weight of grief still heavy. Alex clenched his fists. Today, he would not break his promise. By dusk, the village road burned crimson under the sinking sun. Alex gripped the steering wheel, every muscle in his arms tense. Beside him, Tuna sat silent, her eyes hollow, her body still as stone. Then the phone rang. Alex nearly swerved in shock, fumbling to answer. The officer's voice was sharp, urgent. "We saw Mrs. Dew buying milk earlier. We're tracking her now." His knuckles whitened around the phone. "Send me the location, right now." Tuna's head snapped up, eyes wide. Hope flickered weakly in the dark wells of her despair. Her lips trembled as she asked, Is Henry okay?" Alex didn't answer. He slammed his foot down on the gas, the car jerking forward. Dust curled behind them as the road narrowed into shadowed lanes. Meanwhile, inside a modest house, Mrs. Dew gently stirred milk, her voice soft, crooning to the boy, "My dear grandchild, drink." The words, though unseen, slashed through Tuna's heart like knives. A new message buzzed on Alex's phone, the exact location. His jaw tightened. "We're almost there." Tuna seized his hand, tears spilling. "I just want to hold him again." Ahead, a small house appeared, its yellow light glowing like a challenge in the gathering dark. Alex pulled the car to a stop, turning to her. "Stay calm. We'll get Henry back." But Tuna's eyes burned with something stronger than calm. A mother's rage, a storm ready to break. Police cars idled nearby, their shadows blending with the night. The officers stepped forward, silent guardians of justice. The path to Mrs. Dew's house grew heavier with every step. Yet in Tuna's chest, a fragile spark reignited, a flame daring the storm to snuff it out. Alex steadied her trembling hand, his own heart hammering. The moment of truth was near. Night descended. The little house glowed like a lone lantern on a black sea. Alex and Tuna entered, the police right behind them, their boots pressing against creaking wood. "Henry!" Tuna screamed, her voice tearing through the room. Mrs. Dew clutched the boy tighter, her face twisted with defiance. "He is my grandchild. You can't take him from me." The room trembled under the collision of grief and fury. Tuna's sobs echoed against the walls, while Mrs. Dew's sharp words cut like blades. "Enough!" the officer barked, stepping between them. His tone was cold, unshakable. "We'll handle this." The police demanded Mrs. Dew return the boy, but she clung to him, her voice trembling. "I only wanted to take care of him. He needs me." Tuna pressed a shaking hand to her chest, gasping through tears. "Why? Why did you steal my son?" The officer's pen scratched across a report, each word sealing Mrs. Dew's fate. What you've done is illegal. Her shoulders sagged, her defiance slipping into a whimper. I just missed him. I didn't know. The officers exchanged glances, then gave their decision. She would be taken into custody. Tuna's knees buckled as Henry was handed back into her arms. She crushed him against her chest, her sobs falling onto his hair, like the first rain after drought. Alex placed a trembling hand on her shoulder, his eyes burning with both exhaustion and joy. He whispered, "We did it." Together, they thanked the police, their voices breaking. Outside, the moon hung high, cold and clear, a witness to their reunion. Tuna kissed Henry's head, whispering through tears, "Mommy's here now, my love." Alex guided them to the car, his heart finally breathing free. The road stretched long before them, a ribbon of darkness softened by fragile joy. The night air pulsed with relief, each breath a reminder of victory. Henry's small warmth, nestled in Tuna's arms, anchored her soul back to life, while Alex drove them home under the watchful stars, a quiet promise of peace reclaimed. The night air was still heavy when the police escorted Mrs. Dew out of the house. Blue and red lights pulsed across the quiet street, washing her face in cold color. Her eyes darted around wildly, her voice cracking as she cried out, "I didn't mean to hurt anyone. He's my grandson." But the officers didn't flinch. They cuffed her hands, their tone stern. "You have crossed the line. Kidnapping is a crime." Tuna stood frozen. Henry clutched tightly against her chest. Her heart pounded so hard she thought it might burst, her breath ragged as she watched the scene unfold. Rage burned deep inside her. The image of her boy trapped in that house carved into her memory like a scar. She couldn't hold it in any longer. The fury, the sleepless nights, the endless fear, it all boiled over. Before Alex could stop her, Tuna stepped forward and with all the strength of a broken mother, slapped Mrs. Dew across the face. The sound cracked through the night like a whip. Everyone fell silent. Mrs. Dew staggered back, shock painted across her wrinkled features. Tuna's voice shook, torn between rage and despair. "You stole my child. You made me live in hell." The officers quickly moved in, pulling Tuna back while tightening their grip on the old woman. "Enough," one officer commanded firmly. "We will handle this. No more violence." Alex rushed to Tuna's side, wrapping his arm around her trembling shoulders. "Tuna, please," he whispered, his voice urgent but gentle. "Henry needs you. Don't lose yourself to her cruelty." Tuna's chest heaved as she clung to Henry tighter, her tears falling hot and fast. She could barely hear Alex's words. All she could think of was the haunting thought that if they had been a step later, she might have lost her boy forever. The officers led Mrs. Dew into the waiting car. Her protests grew weaker, drowned out by the closing of the door and the hum of the engine. In that moment, Tuna felt a wave of relief, but it was tangled with pain, confusion, and the deep scars of betrayal. The farm was quiet when they finally returned. Alex placed a sleeping Henry gently on the bed, his small chest rising and falling in peaceful rhythm. Tuna knelt beside him, brushing her fingers across his cheek, as though she needed the physical touch to convince herself that he was truly safe. But her own reflection in the mirror caught her eye, hollow exhausted, her hair messy, her skin pale. She barely recognized the woman staring back. "I'm not the same anymore," she whispered. Alex came up behind her, laying a hand on her shoulder. His voice was low, steady. "You're stronger than you know. Tonight, you faced your darkest fear, and you fought for Henry." But Tuna shook her head, tears pooling again. "I lost myself, Alex. I felt like I was going mad. My mind, it's not mine anymore." He turned her gently to face him. "You're not mad. You're a mother who loves her child. Don't let her shadow haunt you. She's gone now. She'll pay for what she's done." The following morning, word spread quickly through the village. Neighbors whispered in hushed tones about Mrs. Dew's arrest, some shaking their heads, others sighing that they had seen the tension building for months. But Tuna stayed inside, unwilling to face the stares and the questions. She sat by Henry's side, stroking his hair as he played with his toys. Each giggle, each little movement was a balm to her wounded spirit. Yet still, shadows lingered. At night, she would jolt awake, drenched in sweat, hearing phantom cries in the dark. Sometimes she would rush to Henry's bed, only to find him fast asleep. The trauma carved itself into her days and nights, refusing to fade. Alex noticed. He sat with her by the fire one evening, his voice gentle but firm. "Tuna, you need to heal too. Not just for Henry, but for yourself. If you fall apart, who will hold him together?" She stared into the flames, her voice quiet. "I thought I was strong, Alex, but when she took him, I lost everything. My mind, my soul. I felt like I was drowning." Alex reached for her hand, squeezing it tight. "Then let me be the one to pull you out. We'll face this together. You don't have to carry it alone anymore." Tears welled in her eyes, but this time they weren't just of sorrow. They carried the faintest spark of hope. She leaned into him, resting her head on his shoulder, letting his steady heartbeat calm her storm. Weeks later, the trial came. Tuna stood in the courtroom, Henry safe in Alex's arms, while Mrs. Dew faced the judge. Her once proud demeanor was gone, replaced by hollow regret. The judge's verdict was clear. Guilty of child abduction, she was sentenced to prison. For Tuna, it was not triumph, but closure. She didn't cheer, didn't gloat. Instead, she held Henry close, whispering to herself, "It's over. Finally over." Outside the courthouse, reporters gathered, eager for a story. But Alex shielded her from the cameras, guiding her into the car. He knew the world would gossip, would twist the tale. For them, it didn't matter. What mattered was that Henry was safe, and their family was whole again. Back at the farm, the days slowly found rhythm once more. Tuna tended to the fields, Alex by her side, while Henry ran between them, his laughter scattering the last of the darkness. Yet deep inside, Tuna carried a scar. She would never forget the fear, the madness, the moment she thought her life was slipping away. But instead of breaking her, it became part of her strength. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, she whispered, while watching Henry chase fireflies, "I almost lost him, but I found myself instead." Alex stood beside her, his hand finding hers. "And you'll never have to face that darkness again. Not as long as I'm here." The farm exhaled with the evening wind, the fields glowing golden under the last light. In the distance, the village bells rang, signaling another day's end. For Tuna, it marked the beginning of healing, a long road, but one she no longer walked alone. Henry's laughter echoed into the night, a melody that stitched the wounds left behind. And though scars remained, Tuna finally breathed deeply, knowing she had her son, her family, and a future no one could steal away again.